Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lauren Douglas. I'm the SVP of Marketing at Channel Factory, and I am joined by Sarah Moore, who's the SVP of Marketing at MGM Resorts. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
So here we are, we're at South by.
Wonderful.
How are you enjoying it? Have you seen anything that you're excited about?
It's great. I think the keynote yesterday with Alexis McGill-Johnson from Planned Parenthood and Busy Phillips was pretty remarkable.
I missed it. Tell me about it.
Well, ironically, talking about, female rights and what's happening in the world right now and what was announced in Texas yesterday. And so it's just been a little crazy. So it was an important conversation that needed to be had around female rights.
Absolutely. Especially with like the bill, the Texas bill.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it, watch it.
Check it out. Okay, I absolutely will.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like there's been a lot of really good conversation. Humans just bouncing off of each other, talking about things we really need to talk about.
And nothing's off limits.
Yeah.
Everything is on the table. Yeah. Just everything around D&I and ESG and, geopolitical topics. Like everything is on the table. And I think even whether it's in a session or whether it's just a casual hallway conversation.
Totally.
I think that's one of the things I'm taking away from this year.
Absolutely. I love it. Okay, so you run marketing for MGM.
I do.
And you have a team of like 100 people, right?
I do. I think 108 is what we're up to. And we're hiring.
Amazing. I love it. Okay. Go work for Sarah. She's amazing. Are you like, how do you, when you go from a leadership position where you're overseeing a few people and you kind of know what's going on your team and you kind of have the sense for pretty much how to do every role, like how do you go to the position where you have 100 plus people on your team and you're not so in the weeds and you have to rely on people more and you have to sort of rely on your management, and trust them. Like how do you as a manager,
I think honestly, it's probably one of the most difficult transitions for a senior leader. I know even me, when I first kind of assumed my first senior leadership role, like that balance of like, I've always valued myself on output. Yeah. And now my output is much less.
Yes,
now it's about like maximizing and getting output out of your team.
Yes.
It's a really difficult thing. And I think everybody struggles with that. But you said it best. It comes to trust.
Yes.
It comes to how are you breaking down barriers for your team and how are you also we talked about this on the panel a bit, like how are you employing humility to show that at the end of the day, I don't know the ins and out mechanics of every single job. I know enough to be dangerous, but it's about trusting your leadership team.
Absolutely.
And, being aware of how your job has transitioned from that individual output to just like giving them the runway they need to do their jobs.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's I think what makes a good senior leader in any company. Yeah. It's really building that trust and runway for their teams.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you do you have like 2 down level meetings? Do you have 3 down level meetings? How do you get to know everybody? Like how do you even just...
Honestly, I'm approachable to a flaw.
Okay.
Like I think it's actually one of the other things that I probably, and if you ask my boss, our chief commercial officer, he would tell me to make myself less accessible. Okay. I believe in like the best decisions come from everywhere. Yeah. And so I'm constantly like just probably scaring them a little bit. Yeah. I'm like, hey, social media team, all 20 of you, let's just get in a room and start chatting.
Yeah, totally.
I definitely find ways to connect with junior members of the team all the time. I have an open door, virtual policy, again, to a flaw. I just think for me to do my job, I have to understand the mindset at every level. And so it can be a bit taxing because, again, too accessible, but I try to make myself more accessible then.
We're kind of coming out of, hopefully, the end of this pandemic. And I know one of the things that you said to me is one of the core values of MGM is that entertainment it should be accessible to everyone.
Yes.
How do you see that today? What are you excited for in the next 6 months?
Sure. So at MGM, we believe entertainment is a fundamental human need.
Yeah.
We believe it is as important as sleeping, eating, breathing.
Totally.
Humans are the only creatures that have developed like entertainment for fun.
Yeah.
And so I think that was never more apparent than during the pandemic.
Yes.
And, I think like every company, we took a step back and said, how do we take our core positioning and start and continue to deliver those experiences?
Absolutely.
And so whether it was virtual or getting all of our entertainers in a room or in their own rooms to develop content for us, it was never more validated though when we opened the doors and people literally flocked back.
Did they?
Like it was the easiest marketing kind of chapter in my entire career.
Right.
Because we didn't need to do
right.
anything. They fought
just
back
like
and really
put your
validated
open sign up. Right.
exactly that positioning for us.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is coming out of the pandemic is people want more.
Yeah.
Because now there's like this sense of I'm leaving my house. Right? I'm going to X place, I'm spending my dollars. And I think we all just have like an extra filter we put on those buying behaviors.
Okay.
And so for now, or right now, like one of the biggest things we've seen is like people want more, and more means different things to different people. So it's not necessarily more like from a value standpoint, but like they want to feel enriched.
Yes.
They want to, their discretionary time, there's more kind of noise and opportunity amongst their discretionary time. So how are we creating experiences that aren't just surface level?
Yeah.
But like enriching them in a way that they take something back with them.
Absolutely.
And so excited to see how that evolves, either through immersive experiences or like the convergence of education and entertainment.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see how that grows over the next year.
Absolutely.
We can't be surface level anymore, even in Vegas.
Yeah, totally. That makes total sense. Are you, as we kind of come out of this, and is there, I know there's probably a lot that you guys had to do in the pandemic to shift, and a lot of technology that you had to leverage and to create, and coming out of that, like what things will you keep doing and what things do you think might go away?
Sure. I think first, before we can even like talk about like the technology that emerged, we were always very antiquated. Like the hospitality industry lags in innovation, specifically around technology and CX. But the resort casino industry lags even more. And so I think the most beautiful thing that has come out of all of this is like we have been forced to look in the mirror and move faster, be more innovative. And so what I'm really thrilled about is like the entire mindset of our entire senior leadership team at our company, and how we do business and our ability to be more agile has changed. Everything's on the table. Like there's no bad ideas.
Really?
And so that I'm really excited about, just the mindset first and foremost. But from that, it forced us to really accelerate a lot of our technology. Whether it's, digitization of the customer experience, so that, booking and buying and, building your itineraries and digital wallets and all those things that always were like way down the roadmap, they've all been accelerated. And so how we can put more power in the palm of our customers' hands, even in Vegas, is something that we're deeply focused on. It will just continue to accelerate.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
That's exciting.
Cool. That's very cool. That's funny that you say that it's sort of a legacy, because I think you think of that naturally, like you're like, oh yeah, Vegas, old school, Frank Sinatra, but
literally, like many of the people who built that are still in this industry. And so like overcoming legacy thinking is a very real thing.
Yeah, and how do you do that? Like, especially as the marketer, you run the social team, you have a content team, like how do you kind of bring those people along with you, right? And
it's not always the easiest conversations, but I have to say, I have a leadership team, our executive committee, like they're very like humble about saying like, I might not know it, but I trust you. And so we get the support. They understand that it's not their expertise. Doesn't mean they don't criticize it every now and then.
Totally.
But they empower us when it comes to content development or social strategies or influencer strategies or partnering with certain publishers. Like we have a lot of support and kind of runway to do what we need to do, because they understand that we're the ones that really understand what's next.
Great. Yeah. That's really nice. I mean, it's nice to hear that, especially coming out of this, there's at least that willingness and support for all of the, I'm sure, exciting and innovative things that your team wants to accomplish.
Now, granted, they are going to ask about how we're attributing ROI to it, and so that's like a constant, circular reference. But at least at the forefront, they're willing to kind of let us try a lot of different things. So,
how have you had to think about your audiences differently? Because obviously there were travel restrictions. There was less travel from Asia, I'm assuming, and I know there was a huge influx of Asian travel to the Vegas market was probably a big chunk of the tourism revenue. So how, like, communication with your audiences, who your audience is, has that shifted?
Unbelievably. Like the way we look at even just like our foundational segmentation strategy is so incredibly different. We were pretty unsophisticated, if I'm being honest. It was like gamers or non-gamers, right? Vegas or regional. And kind of that was like the crux of our segmentation strategy. But as you start opening your doors and you start understanding who's coming back and what they look like and their buying behaviors, like it forced us to really take a look at like how we're, not only how we look at our audiences, how we target them, but then ultimately like how we measure them. And so we're on this, like, I talked a little bit about this on my panel today, like we're on this like massive customer centricity journey right now.
Yeah.
And so we're getting much more sophisticated in kind of how we're approaching different audiences. But to your point, like international still hasn't returned.
Yeah.
And so how are we looking at some of the audiences that we've undervalued previously? One of them is luxury non-gaming.
Okay.
We're a city built on gamers.
Yeah.
We know how to service them. We know how to make them feel valued.
Yep.
But we have, you know, a massive churn rate for luxury non-gamers who don't have the same kind of service infrastructure.
Interesting.
And so how are we looking at them and how are we providing a framework for like really servicing them in a new and interesting way? And that was
so
ultimately
people who want to come and shop, or people who want to come and dine,
who want to come and eat and go to like
shows.
It'd blow your mind if you knew like how much they were spending when they came, and they're not being recognized in the same way.
Sure. So because they probably don't have the gaming card, and therefore they're not getting
they're not necessarily putting it all in their portfolio, so we can't track it. But that ultimately one of the foundational reasons we changed our loyalty program. And so we launched a new loyalty program that is much more inclusive, much more approachable, accessible, and valuable to the non-gamer. Just as much still for the gamer and more. But really kind of creating value for all of our segments. So it's a really exciting time at MGM.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's cool.
Earlier I asked you if you had one piece of leadership advice that you would give to, that you've been given or you would give to somebody else. What would that look like?
And I said, life advice that has really kind of turned into like a pillar of my leadership style is use your power for good.
Yeah.
My mom told me that when I was little, and power comes in many different shapes or forms.
Yes.
But whatever power means to you, or whatever power you've had the privilege of kind of getting at any moment in time, if you're using it for good and to help others and pay it forward, then you can always look in the mirror and know you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's super cool. Mine was play slow because I am so impatient sometimes.
Yeah.
And especially when I was younger and coming up in marketing, I'd be frustrated, or I'd be like, oh, this is antiquated, or this is, nobody's getting it. They don't understand the value of social or whatever. And it's like, you just gotta play slow. It's happening.
That's almost like a tagline for like me in the resort casino industry is we've had to play slow because of that legacy thinking. But you're still playing.
Right. Absolutely. You just have to.
I love that.
Yeah. Go a little slower.
Yep.
Cool. Is there anything else that I should ask you about or that you want to talk about?
No. Come to Vegas. Come see us.
I will. I was just there for CES.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I'll definitely be back again.
Awesome. Let me know next time you come.
Cool.